We look live in these pictures back once again at Uvalde, Texas. The cross is now on the lawn at Robb Elementary, and each one of those 21 crosses has a name of a victim. 19 children, 2 teachers. In the city, the morning is only beginning. U.S. President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden will be traveling there to meet with the families. We don't know exactly when, and of course, funerals and memorials are also still to come. These will be emotionally wrenching days ahead for the community. And there's a lot of new emotion over the debate over U.S. gun laws as well. Look at what happened yesterday, a confrontation between Texas Governor Greg Abbott and Beto O'Rourke, who's running as a Democrat to unseat Greg Abbott in the fall midterm elections. Abbott's been behind a big push to loosen the gun laws in Texas. So here's what happened when he barged right in on a news conference Abbott was holding with local officials.
This is on you until you choose to do something different. This will continue to happen. Somebody needs to stand up for the children of this state, or they will continue to be killed, just like they were killed in Uvalde yesterday.
You're out of line. Sir, you are out of line. Sir, you are out of line. Please leave this auditorium.
And there was some pretty strong language as he did, in fact, leave that auditorium. Let's bring in Alex Panetta now, who is our correspondent in Washington. Alex, good to see you on this. I want to get your perspective as someone covering this situation, someone who was in Parkland, who has watched this issue over the years. But can we start with that extraordinary confrontation? I mean, it got even more animated and heated outside with Beto O'Rourke, who they're going to face each other in the gubernatorial election, as I mentioned. But I'm wondering what was going on there in your eye. Was it just a lot of emotion? To what end?
A few things happening at the same time. As you mentioned, Beto O'Rourke is running for governor. It's a tough year for Democrats. This is the kind of thing that will get public attention. People will notice that this guy is willing to fight for the causes he believes in and will probably galvanize at least some members of the Democratic base. And the other thing that's going on is most action on gun reform or gun control is happening at the state level because there's total paralysis, or there has been over the last couple of decades in Washington. So what he's accusing his opponent of is having done nothing to limit the supply of guns in his state. As a matter of fact, the governor of Texas has bemoaned the fact that Californians were buying guns at a higher pace than Texans. He wanted to be number one in terms of gun purchases in the country. He's proud to be hosting the NRA convention there over the weekend. So that is a reflection that what happens in the states is really the most important gun policy debate right now in the country because it's not happening, or there's not much change happening in Washington.
Hold on to that NRA thought because I do want to ask you about that too. But in Washington, the question from the president earlier this week was, why do we keep letting this happen? There was a pretty striking number in the Washington Post yesterday. You probably saw it there, Alex. They've been calculating just how many children have been exposed to gun violence since Columbine in 1999. So this is children who've been killed, wounded, witnesses as well. And there's the number, more than 311,000 at 331 schools. And still, to Joe Biden's question, why do they keep letting it happen?
Well, there are a number of reasons. There are cultural reasons, there are historic reasons, constitutional reasons for why guns are so prevalent in this country. But the number you just put on the screen is the grotesque tip of the iceberg here. For context, in 2020, 45,000 people died from gun violence in the United States, a tremendous increase from 2019, surpassing the number of car accident deaths in the country. And that 45,000 is a little bit more than that is self-inflicted, and a little under that is homicide. And that is just, it's way higher, 8 times higher a rate than Canada. And Canada's no, leader in this either internationally. It's Canada's actual homicide rate is higher than most developed countries. But the United States is 8 times higher than Canada. And every year there are about 100 to 120 deaths in schools from shootings. So it's the most vivid, most grotesque example of a pervasive national problem. So you asked, why does it keep happening? There are a number of reasons. And one of the reasons, and I think it's possibly even a dominant explanation lately, is that U.S. political institutions are completely immobilized. The political institutions of this country are built to stop governments from doing silly things. It's one of the reasons this country was founded. The Constitution is embedded with the idea of slowing down government. So it's been there from the beginning. But these political institutions are also reliant on cooperation and consensus to get things done. It's the belief that you need a strong majority to get things through. And that's even gotten stronger over time with things like the Senate filibuster, which requires 60% of the vote to get anything through. And so what you need now is a scenario where to get any action on polarizing issues, you need to control the White House, you need to control the House of Representatives, you need to control not only the Senate, you need to have 60% of Senate seats to do just about anything. And that never happens. That happens like, every couple of generations. And right now, the Senate is divided 50-50, and I wrote in a piece today that it's like a legislative hospice. The United States Senate is like, it is a place where legislation crawls to die slow, unheralded deaths. And it's true on climate change, it's true on abortion, it's true on parental leave, it's true on gun control. And it's happened again and again.
Right now, we're hearing from Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer that there is legislation set to be brought to the Senate floor on even something as sort of entry as background checks, and even he is showing no indication of optimism that this will advance with any degree of bipartisan support. So again, it seems futile.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's futile yet. I mean, I certainly wouldn't be betting on any action because it's never a bad idea to bet against action of the United States Congress. But in this particular case, they're going to have a conversation. They're scheduled to go away on a 10-day break, just one of their periodic. Study breaks, they call them. They're going to go back home to their states for Memorial Day. And I wrote in a piece today that they're going to go home and, for Memorial Day barbecues, and which is just as well when it comes to gun control because, this Congress has proven itself more prolific or proficient at flipping burgers than it has at passing laws when it comes to guns. And that while that might sound a little bit flippant, it's the truth. It's statistically true that they have more barbecues than the legislative action on gun reform. However, there are bipartisan talks. Chris Murphy, who represents the state of Connecticut for the Democrats, has been the strongest proponent of gun control in the Senate ever since the Newtown massacre in his own state almost a decade ago. And he's talking to a few Republicans who support limited gun control measures. And it's important, you referred to the polling earlier. There's, you can break the polling down into 3 different tranches. If you phrase the question a certain way, you'll find only like 35% of Americans support gun reform. And you phrase the question a little bit more loosely and say, do you favor modest changes to gun laws? You might get 52, 54, 58% of Americans who support it. And if you phrase the question in a way that alludes to specific and targeted changes, do you believe in background checks? Do you believe in red flag laws that would allow the state to grab guns from someone whose family members, for example, say this person is dangerous, you should come and take their weapons? Well, then you can get into the 80s, really strong majority support for those specific ideas. And they're looking at those latter things now that Chris Murphy's talking to some Republicans. But the thing is, you need 10 Republicans. It's very hard. I was talking about how polarizing things are now. Last year, an infrastructure bill got passed, a roads bill. It was a big roads bill. But the fact that some Republicans voted to make it happen, those Republicans got threatened with primaries. They got death threats. This is about roads. Could you mention on guns? And
Sure.
so getting 10 votes is not going to be easy.
No. Let me ask you one more thing. You mentioned the NRA, the annual convention finally back in person after COVID and set for Houston. Houston's mayor has said he doesn't want the convention to be there, postponed. He said to Donald Trump, to Ted Cruz, to Greg Abbott, don't come and speak. They're all on the agenda. And at the same time, again, going back to the Washington Post, you would have seen releasing an article talking about just how many millions of dollars the NRA has given to GOP candidates to campaign contributions over the years. Even Mitt Romney has taken $13 million over the years. So the headline in one piece I was seeing today, why is the GOP choosing the NRA over murdered children? How does this all figure in to the convention coming up?
The NRA was a very powerful organization for years, and it was vocal in the gun reform disputes of the 1990s. The United States actually did pass an assault weapons ban, which expired in the 90s. The NRA was Bill Clinton's most vociferous foe at the time. It's a troubled institution, fallen on hard times, financial and legal trouble. And I think the NRA is no longer driving this bus. It's become a symbol, and yes, you're right. It's donated to political campaigns, but I think the grassroots, the base voter, is what's driving this bus now. And just talking about how polarized this country is. It's polarized on guns. Guns have become a status symbol, an identity symbol for a lot of the country. Rural dwellers, Republican voters, are twice or 2.5 times likelier to own a gun than people who live in cities or who vote Democrat. And so in a country whose politics splits entirely along rural and urban lines, with suburbs being, the swing state within the swing state, guns have become this third rail of American politics. And if they succeed at passing some sort of gun reform, it'll be the first time in decades and will be a tremendous achievement in the face of a number of obstacles.
To be continued. Thank you for all of that perspective, Alex. I always appreciate hearing from you. Alex Panetta, he's in Washington with us today. Thanks.